unspoken rules in Australia that go without saying, but the only problem is, if you've not grown up with these rules, they might take a bit of getting used to. So you've either got to learn them very quickly, or you will find yourself in some situations that are a little bit awkward / slightly funny.
More awkward.
More awkward, yeah.
So the first thing is you're going to have to accept people taking the mick out of you, you taking the mick out of them, and just having that bit of banter between you.
Yeah, the Australians love humour, and the chance to have a laugh at other people's expense or even at your own is greatly appreciated here. And do you know what will make you fit in even more? Is if you give it back. So don't just take having the mick taken out of you, take the mick out of others as well. Secondly, words will get shortened or changed, and that's just part of living in Australia. Your name, the time of day, even what you're eating. For example, hey Benno, I'm off to Macca's and I'm gonna go and ask for extra avo in my sandwich the Savo.
Too easy.
See what we did there? Forever teaching Australian language.
Yeah, nah. Another thing is, it's all right to call everyone mate. Even if they're not your mate or you don't even know who they are. I often turn up to drop stuff off to people and I call them mate, because all it means is you don't really know their name, but you're just going to call them mate. Or another thing is you say, old mate.
So we've noticed it in situations that we probably would never have heard of someone being called mate before. For example, we expressed an interest in a house when we first moved to Australia, and we let the real estate agent know. We said we're interested in this house, and he sent an email back and it was like, cheers mate. It just surprised us because it was in a professional setting and we weren't used to that. We've also noticed it used in a stern tone when someone has stepped out of line. So like, mate, that wasn't okay, is something that can be used as well. So you don't need to necessarily call someone your mate because they're your mate. They don't need to be your mate. For anyone who is not Australian, being greeted with how's it going can be a little bit peculiar at first and you don't quite know how to respond to it.
Yeah, for the first couple of years, when people were saying how's it going, I actually came out with, oh yeah, I'm feeling pretty good today. But that's not what they was actually expecting.
For non-Australians, it does feel kind of awkward to begin with because you just don't know. But it seems to be more of a rhetorical question. Probably at most you would say something like, yeah, good, thanks. But other than that, you don't really tend to actually respond. They don't want a detailed response. It's a greeting, only a greeting.
We've also noticed when people are unhappy about how someone's acted or they're feeling a bit disgusted on how they've done something, they often say it's very un-Australian. Being
un-Australian seems to be a real insult. So if someone has done something that's not really the right thing by another person, they could refer to them as, that was really un-Australian behaviour. And that's pretty much the biggest insult that we've heard since we've been here. To be called that is, you know, quite disgraceful. It seems to be used in circumstances when someone has done the wrong thing by others.
I've never been called un-Australian.
I haven't been called un-Australian either. I think you have to be really scummy to be called un-Australian. And also, furthermore to that, doing the right thing is considered to be a very good quality here. And it's kind of an expectation that you do the right thing by other people.
You've got to be very fair dinkum.
And doing the right thing actually includes things like paying people fairly and not trying to underpay someone. So if you wanted a job doing at your house, you're expected to pay someone a reasonable amount of money, a fair pay. And if you try and underpay people, we've seen it a number of times on the community pages, people will call you out and people will call you a grub for trying to underpay. It's considered very poor form and a very low act. Being called a grub would be very insulting as well as being called un-Australian. It's not okay to try and underpay people here.
So while paying people a fair wage is expected, tipping isn't.
Tipping is not part of Australian culture. Treating everybody equally is part of Australian culture, and it does not matter what your background is, you will have the same opportunities and also be spoken to in exactly the same way as anybody else. The Australians don't care whether you've come from wealth, they don't care whether you've got a nice house, they don't care about any of these things. You're treated exactly the same wherever you come from, whatever you have, as it should be.
But a major thing we notice here in Australia, Australians and the people that should come and visit care massively about the environment and the surroundings around them.
It's such a beautiful country, and the Australians really do take a pride in it. And that is an expectation that anybody who is here takes part in that pride and really looks after everything and keeps it clean, keeps it tidy. It is also very noticeable that the Australians care deeply for the wildlife here, and it is an expectation that everybody respects it. And even little things like if you see a dead kangaroo on the side of the road, you're supposed to go and check its pouch to make sure there's not a joey in there. If there's a joey, obviously you would take it to a wildlife rescue. If it has like a painted cross on it, then it means someone's already checked the pouch. But there's a higher level of care that we have noticed for the Australian wildlife.
We've noticed that Australians do actually stick to the road rules here. They either go to the speed limit or they stay under. I know a lot of you Aussies will think, well, this is an obvious thing.
I know it sounds really obvious to probably anyone from Australia, but elsewhere in the world it's not quite so strict, and people don't really seem to adhere to the rules quite so much. It can be something that's quite surprising to people who are not from Australia. There are hefty fines for people who don't abide by the rules. Which brings us on to our next point, which is a little bit controversial because it's not legal, but we're going to mention it anyway because it's something that we've noticed. Flashing your lights here in Australia. We've noticed it used mostly when people are alerting others that the police are around. So it's usually if there's a speed camera. And obviously people can use it for hazards as well, but we've never actually seen it used for that. We've only ever seen it used here for alerting someone that there's a speed camera nearby.
We used to flash our lights to say thank you, or flash someone to say, go on, you can go round.
That's not the done thing.
Yeah, that's definitely not something that they do here. Definitely not in Queensland. I don't know if the other states are the same. But yeah, flashing your lights is mainly to say, check your speed, there's a cop around the corner.
But we will just let you know that you can get fined for this. It is illegal to do it. And I would imagine the fines are quite hefty for that. So yeah, it's not something you should do, but it's something that we have noticed that people do.
Yeah, you know who you are, you flashers.
So this next one is for people who are not from Australia, but in Australia, or yeah, who have come into Australia.
Visiting.
Yeah, or living here. It's not the done thing to complain. Australians are very proud of their country, and it is not okay with them for you to complain about things here.
So when you're socialising and you're going to visit people, it's very much the done thing here to bring something with you. Either you decide you're going to bring the cake, like a dessert or something like that, or you're going to bring something for the barbecue, and definitely bring some grog with you, meaning bring some drink.
This seems to be one that catches people out, and it's a little bit funny. I didn't realise that this was not obvious to people, but when someone says bring a plate, it doesn't mean that they don't have enough plates for their guests. It means that people have said that. Something. It means that you bring a plate with food on it to share.
And it's sort of like an unspoken thing that you're gonna bring some booze as
yeah,
well.
You have got to bring stuff with you if you go to someone's house or to any kind of gathering. It's expected that you bring something with you.
And even if they say don't bring anything, just
you
bring
should.
it. And also, if you're bringing the booze, make sure it's cold, because Australians do not like anything warm.
A cold one is essential, and a cold one refers to a beer. It has got to be cold, cold. Not just cold, but cold. This next one goes without saying. You must check your shoes if you leave them outside before you put them on again. We don't tend to leave shoes outside, but if you were to, you probably should check them before you put them on your feet, just in case there's something inside.
Yeah, pretty much the only thing I leave outside, like footwear wise, is my thongs.
The next one that we were a little surprised by, but it makes perfect sense, is that cats are expected to be kept inside here. They're not expected to go roaming around neighbourhoods. It's not appreciated here at all. So if you have a cat, you're expected to keep it on your own property. It seems to be because people don't want the cats attacking wildlife. So that's why it's very frowned upon to let a cat just go roaming around here.
And also, make sure you do not park out in the sun. Make sure you park in the shade.
It's not a case of wanting to park the closest to the shops here. You want to park wherever the shade is, because in the summer you don't want your car sat in the sun, because it pretty much becomes an oven. As we've mentioned in other videos, trying to touch the steering wheel or do your seatbelt up if your car has been sat in the sun, it burns.
So just before we go, we would love to announce the winner of last week's competition, and that is
Fionn Bullock. Thank you to everybody who entered. You gave us the best week of looking at all of your photographs. It was so much fun, so thank you.
Yeah, we do really appreciate and love seeing all these pictures and comments that we get.
Congratulations, Fionn. We'll be in touch via DMs on Instagram.
Well done. And if you like this video, check out this one.